I would like to give you a summary of our project on impact of Swiss food consumption and trade, which we finalized last month. So we currently prepare the final report. And I would like to give you an overview also how we integrate this project into our more sustainable food processing initiative here at ETH Zurich. I want to introduce some scientists which were involved and how we want to use these results now to support the transition of our food system in the right manner. First of all, a little more general slide here, which is our sustainable food processing research initiative at ETH Zurich, which is also a flagship initiative at the World Food System Center, or Competence Center, where we focus here on novel protein productions. And the SNF NRP 73 project, which we executed, is part of our multi-indicator sustainability assessment, where we develop methods and integrate new data sets and case studies together with our industry partners. But it's part of a larger initiative where we focus on single cell technologies to leverage emerging technologies to produce potentially more sustainable foods by using microalgae and also alternative animal value chains based on insects, especially for the feed production. Because in our analysis, we could also clearly say that we still need to have animal-based products for the most sustainable diet. Coming a bit to the project itself, that was strongly initiated in strong collaboration with Professor Abhishek Chowdhury, who was a former postdoc on this project. He got a tenured professorship at the Indian Institute of Technology during the project execution. So I want to clearly acknowledge Abhishek's strong input here. And it was also strongly supported by our doctoral candidate, Kangxi Chen, which will finalize her doctoral thesis at the end of this year, or currently we plan autumn. The aim was to develop a new framework that combines multi-indicator-based environment and ecosystem impact assessment with a nutritional quality assessment. And that is very essential in food studies specifically, and it's part of the social domain of sustainability, where we have also, for example, health impacts considered. And that is then in order to evaluate the sustainability, or holistic sustainability of national food systems and also the Swiss food system. Our main research questions are summarized here. What is the nutritional quality status of the current global Swiss diet? What is the food-related per capita environmental footprint of global and Swiss daily diets? What does nutritional and environmental scores change under different scenarios, alternative and future diets? And what is the optimum dietary transformation pathway to improve current nutrition and environmental scores? We use these data specifically to also focus on our, I call it action-based research. So this is really contributing, this project is contributing to the understanding and to the projection. But here on our team, we also work on the development of emerging and new food sources based on the value chains which I introduced to you before. And that connection I will show you at the end of the presentation a bit more. Key findings are summarized here in the 3 key publications. That's part of our publication portfolio during this project execution. In total, we developed 6 project peer review articles, where 4 already are published in open access and available. The first one is a multi-indicator approach quantifying the status of 156 national food system performances, published in Nature Communication. The next one was focusing on the Swiss environment specifically, done by Kangxi's work on multi-indicator sustainability assessment. Here we also use data from our industry partner Migros, which is the largest food producer in Switzerland. And then the third study focused on the assessment of value of daily per capita food waste of 151 countries, including also Switzerland, where Kangxi also integrated nicely here the nutritional dimension in that global study. And I would like to briefly introduce these studies to you in more detail. The first global study, which already got more than 196 citations also, was published in 2018. That was really at the beginning of our project, where we developed a framework of global food system sustainability performance. And we suggested this first detailed multi-indicator sustainability assessment here with the consideration of the assessment of 156 nations, employing 25 sustainability indicators across these 7 aggregated domains, specifically food nutrient adequacy, which is already having the social dimension of sustainability included, ecosystem stability, which is the most investigated dimension, I think, the environment. But here we already come then also to social aspects of food sustainability, affordability and availability. Still a significant challenge of our emerging sources, for example, based on microalgae. These sources are still very costly because of the low technology readiness level and missing economy of scale. Social cultural well-being, resilience, especially during the COVID-19, very important dimension because a lot of food systems are based on trade. Food safety, I think in our region, a domain which is not such a big problem, but especially in developing areas, we have a lot of unsafe foods. And the last one, where we have a lot of challenges in our high-income regions, is the waste and loss reduction. Based on this assessment, we focused our research specifically on the alternative animal-based foods, where we again focus on microalgae-based food systems and alternative feeds, specifically the replacement of fish meal, which is linked to a significant biodiversity loss, but also many environmental damages depending on the region. And also the better use of the reduction of food waste and losses, but then also the better use of such waste and loss streams through emerging process options. Coming to a bit more detail, first of all, that is strongly linked to the 17 SDGs, where we're currently also summarizing that in a review developed by Kangxi, how these different SDGs are linked to several innovations. And again, here in the food sector, you really need to address the nutritional quality and also the health impacts, which are coming to coming later in a different article presentation. The nutrient adequacy was here shown on the left, and the ecosystem stability in domain was shown on the right. You can nicely see that in many regions we have a sufficient nutrient adequacy, but that is quite often for the price of a significant ecosystem stability loss. Here we summarize these different indicators into the different matrices. That's just the two of them. And here we see a bit the trade-offs when we, for example, deliver currently excellent food qualities with high nutrition, because quite often they are based on animal-based value chains. Here we can also link that to, for example, innovations around plant-based materials, where we can also deliver many important macro and specifically micronutrients, but also single-cell systems, which are currently more and more visible in many discussions, can contribute here as well. On the Swiss system, Kangxi performed this analysis of the multi-indicator sustainability assessment of different diets. Scenarios are shown here. You have the full caption of that table. It's again also an open access publication from 2019. We have here, for example, the reference diet, and here we have the diet recommendation of the Swiss Society of Nutrition, RSN, and that was shown the best performance in all the investigated dimensions: human health, nutrition, environment, and economic cost of a daily diet, for example, here, where we used the data from Le Shop and Micro of food prices, for example, at the consumption level. The vegan diet had several benefits, but had some issues around the delivery of certain micronutrients. Of course, you can supplement. Here we are still doing research how we can assess such supplementation. That couldn't be considered in this study. Other diets were also considered, for example, meat-oriented diets and flexitarian diets. However, the recommendation of the Swiss Society of Nutrition were performing best across all the different dimensions. In a global study on nutritional and environmental losses embedded in global food waste, Kangxi was then combining environmental footprints with country-specific wasted daily diets. And that is addressing a very sensitive topic where we, from my point of view, need to have more awareness. So hopefully this open access publication brings also more awareness. It has already 35 citations in the first year. Because already 1/3 of the world's food is lost or wasted, and that is absolutely unacceptable from my point of view. 1.3 billion tons globally, alone in Switzerland, that's 2.6 million tons. Globally, on average, we have 65 kilograms of food wasted per year per one person, and that is strongly linked to our SDG 2, end hunger, and SDG 12, ensure sustainable consumption and production patterns. You can see here the daily per capita food waste of 151 countries using the two recent indicators for embedded nutritional losses. That was a study, or the first idea around such integration was coming from Nestle research, from Karen Cooper for Great Britain. And Kanchi was then really using the global assessment, or using this methodology for a global assessment. Yeah, that is the embedded nutritional losses in wasted nutrient days and wasted daily diets, with and also in comparison to 5 indicators for embedded environmental footprints, where we have, for example, 140 gram CO2 equivalent, 58 liter freshwater use, 0.36 gram meter cropland use, 2.9 gram nitrogen, and 0.48 gram phosphorus use integrated. And we could, for example, have here the value of wasted daily diets globally. It's the average is 18. It's a very heterogeneous performance in different regions. Red is very negative. You can see here the linkage to the legend. And we could, for example, feed people with such a macro micronutrient composition if we wouldn't waste them. So hopefully we can improve a bit the awareness on this very sensitive topic, because it's strongly linked also to behavior from my point of view. And yeah, we try to support policymakers to set the improvement targets in specific areas and adopt new practices by using these data and the baseline for tracking the influence of interventions, promoting the efficiency of policies or investments, and engaging various stakeholders in different domains. I would like to now move a bit on the translation part, because that was also asked by Barbara, how our data can be translated into society. So we have a strong collaboration with industry here, with the largest producer of pulses worldwide, which, for example, deliver pulses to the Indian population. Here we did a study also using this environmental and nutritional combination of sustainability assessment for 3 different commodities: bread, cereals, and pasta, where we integrated yellow peas instead of refined wheat into these commodities with different percentages. You can't replace completely wheat, because wheat has gluten, and gluten has a very important techno-functionality to create structures. That's structured processed foods. The majority of food is processed. It's not always bad. That has also a very important function in the final use. And here we could show that the nutrient balance score, which we used here for the nutritional dimension, could be increased in all 3 commodities by integrating pulses. The life cycle carbon footprint could be reduced because they need less fertilizer in the primary production. And we could also suggest this combination, nutrition, carbon footprint score here, which has then also the performance improvement shown. Such a study could be already integrated now. And for example, our partner Bühler is very interested on these results immediately into food production, but you need to adapt your food processing, because you need to keep a bit the final techno functionalities of the ingredients and the final product, and keep the structure. Otherwise, you don't have the properties you want to deliver to the consumers. So finally, we have 3 recommendations. That's the national and global policymakers should identify key areas of food system improvement, set priorities based on the holistic multi-indicator approach for both human and planetary health. We have for Swiss consumers suggestions to increase the intake of legumes, nuts and seeds, fruits and vegetables, reducing the overconsumed meat products, and minimize the food waste for a healthier and more sustainable food consumption. And last but not least, the stakeholders in the food industry and food supply chain should take nutrition and environmental sustainability perspective into consideration for achieving the co-benefits of business development and social welfare. With that, I would like to move a bit to a broader scope, where we have, for example, also based on this project, a very nice collaboration with Thomas Nemecek, which is also a PI in this NRP 73, with a joint doctoral thesis together with Ashley Green, where we assess not only nutrition and environmental sustainability, and I mentioned also health impacts. And here was a very nice study published together in Global Food Security, which I strongly recommend if you are interested on the topic, specifically with the focus life cycle assessment. Ashley could also publish just some days ago her research study on a really global assessment based on this topic. And so that is a very valuable collaboration here with Agroscope. And our NRP 73 project was also in the end contributing that we could be integrated in this global initiatives by the Nature Sustainability Expert Panel driven by the Cornell Atkinson Center, where also ideas we are integrated in this open access report, but also in the recent publications around food system transformation and nature sustainability and lands and planetary health. But what can we do? We can, of course, again, analyze the problem. We can suggest improvements, but then finally, we also need to perform actions. And here, for example, we suggest an innovative algae biorefinery concept that is really out of the current scope of our NRP 73. However, integrates ideas from the assessments and delivers products which are not only bulk, for example, for meat alternatives. We published the first yellow microalgae-based meat substitute together with the ETH spin-off Planted, which created now a really nice business with 80 employees in Chemtal. We also investigated, for example, functional lipids with health impacts. That's polyunsaturated fatty acids from microalgae, here research with Nestle, but also with Bühler, GNT, Hilconar, and others. We developed different ideas how we can, for example, extract potentially more sustainable food products out of such a system which doesn't need to have any arable land and can be grown in the city like this algae house here. That is currently also in the final for a multi-million franc funding. Hopefully we get the okay in July with the Singapore ETH Center where we want to integrate that idea. Yeah, also research which I want to connect here. For example, we have a 4-year project with Nestle on lipid and protein bioaccessibility. I talked a lot in our sustainability assessment about nutritional quality, for example, how we can integrate that. But that does not integrate the bioaccessibility, the bioavailability, and the bioactivity in our body. I see so much needs that we link here more with nutritionists and also medical research, that we integrate data, which are partially even not available, of current diets or current foods, but also, for example, emerging foods based on microalgae into such assessments. That is really a huge gap which we couldn't address yet. We try first to develop some new data sets. On the alternative animal-based value chains, here we collaborate with Bühler and Protex, for example, one of the leading companies in the emerging insect sector. We focus on alternative animal feed because in the study from Kangxi, for example, but also Abhishek, it was clearly shown animal-based products belong to a more sustainable diets if you consider the 3 dimensions, including, for example, also nutritional quality, including essential micronutrients like vitamin B12 and choline and others. Yeah, here we can, for example, also combine the better use of organic waste, for example, food waste and food losses, through the conversion of black soldier fly larvae for the final production of alternative animal feeds, which can then replace fish meal, for example. The total volume of fish meal globally is 4 million tons. Protex and Bühler raised the most modern factory in the Netherlands now, but here we still have now reached a very interesting technology readiness level, but we need to have now the economy of scale, so we now need to raise 1,000 insect factories to replace a 4 million tons fish meal and really improve that sustainability performance of that value chain. It was also summarized in a really exciting discussion by the SDSN and NRP 73 last year. I really loved that exchange. Thanks so much for the NRP 73 Orga team, especially Pascal and Barbara. And we could also draw that together with Filippo's help, of course, which is also open access available. And we also try to distribute that during different conferences, especially now we have the United Nations Food Summit upcoming, where we have a lot of interesting exchange in Switzerland as well. Thanks very much to the team, our university, applied R&D, and specifically industry partners for that strong support. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you very much.